Hey, everybody, good morning. It's me, Robert Phoenix, and I am back on the case. Another day of deconstruction and delight. You're a detective with the inner directive and your sleuth for eternal truth. We're here once again. It is Thursday, the 17th of September, and we're going to be getting into a lot of stuff tonight. Today, rather. Tonight. I had a late night last night. I was on a mission. I was on a mission from God. I will spare you the details though. Good morning, T. Jordan. How are you? FUP77 in the house. FUP77 in La Casa. Yeah, we're going to cover a lot of ground. If you are looking at today's show title, well, I'm going to try to get into the strange case of Jason Gelinas and the QAnon website, the most popular QAnon website on the internet. It was an aggregator, basically bringing in all this QAnon content so that people could scrape it. Anyway, I'm going to get into some interesting connections with Jason Gelinas, very odd connections. And not everything is as it seems, as always. And so I'm going to try to break some of that down. I don't have the full picture, but I've been able to make some very interesting connections in a very, very short period of time. Oh, Mary's going to Mount Rushmore. Oh, cool. That's awesome. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Bill Barr today because I was listening to a podcast with Eric Gajewski and Russ Winter, and I really like Russ Winter. I like his side a lot, and he is, if you're into somebody who is nonpartisan and really wants to understand or uncover the quote-unquote truth, Russ Winter is a pretty good source, I will say. And I'm going to play just a snippet of his interview with Eric Gajewski, which specifically deals with Bill Barr. And there's an interesting connection that they bring up that I was talking about earlier this week and even last week. So we're going to get into that. And I'm also going to play a few things from a couple of the Batman movies, which I think are very, very important on a number of different levels, because there's a lot of predictive programming in Batman. And there's also some very interesting philosophical material inside of Batman, which I think the three Batman movies that were done by Christopher Nolan are tremendous. All of them are tremendous. I think my favorite one is probably the first one. I think the first one's the best. And then I would put the third one, Dark Knight Rises. And then I would put the one with the Joker right after that. Oh, we have a woman walking by my place right now with a baby in a kind of one of these athletic strollers. Looks like she's wearing scrubs and no mask. No mask. They really should have sidewalks here on this street. Fredericksburg is a town that is suspiciously devoid of sidewalks. They have them downtown, but almost every other area in Fredericksburg doesn't have any sidewalks. I think this street deserves sidewalks. If I was mayor of this town, sidewalks would be a priority. Let me tell you, they would definitely be a priority. I like Burton Batman. Tim Burton has the ability to capture the absurd and the cartoonish. So there's a high degree of like surrealism in a lot of his in the Batman movies that he directed. There's that. It's a very kind of cartoonish, kind of over the top. I mean, he's the director of Mars Attacks, right? which is that kind of over-the-top style. It's almost sort of expressionism or maximalism. And it's very, very effective. It's a very different style than Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is more dystopic, which I'm a dystopia freak. I was raised on dystopia. All right, let me do a little roll call here. There's Natasha Lloyd, PMSO LLC, J.R. Williams. There's Justice, Tamara Garth. Hi, Tamara. Joan W., good morning. Danica Rose, Laura D., Christy. What's going on, Christy? Let's see. Michael R. I'm Michael I.R. No, Michael R. My bad, Michael R. Tina Sherman, Lils, Mary Black, Joe Mama showing up today. Nice to see you, Joe. Judy Anderson. Good to see you, Judy. See you soon. There he is, Frank Bry. Who else? There's Beth Berry, Double B. Wendy Eater checking in. Wendy, you asked some very good questions yesterday, which I would like to address. Marie MacArthur, Paula Tuttle. Hi, Paula. Paula, nice to see you, by the way. Nice to see you, Paula. Great to see you here. Let's see. Who else? Uncle Glenn in the house. What's going on, Uncle? Evan, E.T. There's Leanne. All right, the gang is all here. Apparently, I'll give you a Maury update. Maury is apparently doing okay. Hi, Momo. Maury's doing okay. Pensacola has been pretty much wiped out by this hurricane thing, and he lost, I think, part of his roof. I don't know how much of his roof, his porch, a big tree that was out there, but apparently the tree missed his place. So sometimes we count our blessings where we can. And he's doing all right. I don't know if they got power back, but there is a little bit of a hat being passed for Maury, who basically lives on a very, very humble pension and Social Security. So Dawn is the contact point. So if you want to help Maury, you should contact Dawn, who will hopefully show up in chat. And she could direct you to his PayPal address, which I do not, it's his email address, which I do not want to give out. But Dawn can and will. If you want to connect with Dawn, you can do so through Facebook. You could go to the 11th House page on Facebook, chime in, and just put a post in there and say, Dawn, can you please contact me? And let me know how I can help Maury, and she'll be able to do that. Okay? So there you go. We do this every now and then, we help each other out. People have helped me out. This is really what it's about, being able to support one another in any way we can. And, let's hope Maury gets back on his feet and rolling. Let's see, Sanita, Sanitarium Radio. This is Darcy. What's going on, Darcy? You're so funny. Double V in the house. And there is Faith's remote viewing trip. Amanda Pomander, good to see you. And, apparently there are people who will not mention your name unless they give you a, what do they call it? A little Insta chat, or one of they pay you. They pay you like a little tip thing. I don't know what it's called. Power chat. I don't know what it's called. But I've seen this. There are people on YouTube who do shows who will only acknowledge people who give them money. Isn't that weird? I think that's kind of weird. And because I have lost my ability to monetize this channel many, many years ago, Super Chat. Thank you, Joan. Super Chat. Because I lost my ability to monetize this many years ago, I'm not eligible for Super Chat. So in a lot of ways, it makes it all very easy and very democratic, right? Super Chat. Yes, Super Chat. I cannot, you cannot Super Chat me. However, there will be a link when I finish the show. If you do want to donate something to the show, there will be a link in the page there at the beginning. This is just for the show. This is just for this. Anyway, so a lot to get into today. And why don't we just jump right on in? And Wendy brought something up yesterday that I do want to address. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. All right, here we go. Dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest best truth, wisdom, and information come through this channel at this time. And as always, to be blessed and graced by the qualities of truth, discernment, understanding, wisdom, faith, flexibility, strength, courage, commitment, determination, clarity, humor, intelligence, empathy, and above all, love. We ask that any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, removed, and cleared away so that we may return to our experienced sovereign, as it were, and so be it. Let's get rolling, DJ MC, Papa Mike. Papa Mike in the house. That's great. Shall we do the disclaimer? I think it's always good to do the disclaimer. Somebody should make a song up about that. Do the disclaimer. Do the disclaimer. It's the modern flavor. Do the disclaimer. All right. Here we go. All right. Warning. You are entering this video space and are consenting to the content from this point forward. This content may not meet any approved standard, communal or otherwise. And by viewing it, you are abdicating any objection therein. You will have 10 seconds to cease viewing live or after the fact. Robert Phoenix, that's me, theoretically, is not impersonating any news service, and any views are based on personal opinion. And the content herein is for entertainment purposes only. Only. You got 10 seconds. That's too complicated. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're in. You're in. Okay. There it is. I'm entertaining. Well, that's good. Because it would be real drag if I was boring, wasn't it? Wouldn't it be? Just come at you with all this information. At least you're entertained at times. Where do we start? Where do we start? Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for being here, being a part of the show. Let me just extend my gratitude to you for hanging out here with me on Monday through Thursday from 9 to whenever. Tomorrow on the Friday Farcast, I'll be joined by Larkin, Texas, and we'll take the pulse of the communitarian, global communitarian effort moving forward. And Chad Stumpke, who is a very interesting character and has done a lot of work on like portals and space gates and things that are connected to underground facilities. Esoteric architectura is what I would like to term it. Give it a name. So they'll both be on tomorrow. starting at 12 noon. So you want to be here, check that out. I think Lark is on first. And then Chad comes in, and it'll be an hour with both. So you'll enjoy that, I'm sure. Two very interesting people, and you'll learn a lot, and I'll learn a lot. And that's always a good thing. Always a good thing. Lot to get into. So first of all, I wanted to talk about a question that Wendy brought up yesterday. It's a very good question. And it has to do, like I was talking about, deputizing and federalizing the state troopers, right? And Wendy brought up a good point and said, well, wouldn't that be setting a bad precedent? Wouldn't you essentially be creating a national police force? She didn't really say that, but I think she may have been intimating that. And Wendy, it's a really good question, and it's a really good point to bring up. And of course, the answer is not always as easy or clear or as black and white as we would like it to be. So my feeling is that as soon as these things broke out, immediately it should have happened. Immediately. There should have been no debate, none whatsoever, because what was taking place were the violation of civil rights, and civil rights are covered theoretically by the 14th Amendment, and that people should have, equal justice, right? I mean, equal justice and equal protection under the law. That is a constitutional piece. It's an amendment. It's the 14th Amendment. So it is a national republic, right, piece that was amended onto the Constitution for these very same incidents that we are experiencing now. These are civil rights violations. People's civil rights are being violated. What does it mean? It means that when somebody breaks in to your bakery and steals shit and burns and loots it, first of all, it is not a civil protest. It is anything beyond civil. It is uncivil. And the rights of the shopkeeper or the business owner have been violated. They've been violated. Let's get into Rochester, New York. You're sitting around, you're having, I don't know, your after dinner gelato, and all of a sudden the mob descends upon you. They are violating your civil rights. They are absolutely violating your civil rights. And your civil right is to be able to basically have a meal in a private establishment. Those people were trespassing at that point. And for all intents and purposes, they could have been easily arrested for trespassing. Yep. Now, civil rights do not apply to just one group or just one ideology. Civil rights are essentially provided equal protection under the law. This is what the 14th Amendment talks about. No one group has a greater right or privilege to demonstrate their ideology in any aggressive fashion at the expense over another group. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? It does not matter what the group is. If you're brown shirts and you go walking down the street, right, theoretically, as long as you don't do anything, that's your right, right? If you are another group and you don't do anything, that is your right. But the moment you cross a line and you start breaking and entering, trespassing, threatening, any of the things that we've seen, your civil rights have been violated. And under the 14th Amendment, we are afforded equal protection under the quote unquote law. Okay. That's the way it is. So if that is inside, right, an amendment to the Constitution, it makes it a federal offense to violate one's civil rights. Now, you could go to court and you could be on a slippery slope to define what those civil rights are, but I think we know when they're being violated. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist. Doesn't. So the other thing is that Trump, as the commander-in-chief, is sworn to protect the country from enemies, foreign and domestic, okay? Foreign and domestic. And what are we seeing? We're seeing an aggregation of aggression. And for all intents and purposes, what looks like enemies to people in cities and counties and states across the country, primarily on the coasts, right? So this is a domestic threat, and the commander-in-chief swears to protect the country from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Okay, so you got the 14th Amendment, and then you have the oath of office, both of which have not necessarily been followed to the letter of the law. They've allowed this thing to fester and become toxic. And again, it's leading towards a tilting of the scales in Trump's direction. But again, it's highly cynical. And at what cost? At what cost to people's livelihoods, people's businesses, people's sanity? And that's just on that side of the ledger sheet. I haven't even talked about COVID-19 and the coronavirus and the mask and the hyping up the vaccine, and the whole thing is that's a whole other discussion. And we, by the way, you may be staring that down real soon. Supposedly November 1st, November 2nd, they bring vaccines to the streets. Again, this is what Trump is talking about. And these are vaccines without any real trial. Now, apparently Bill Gates is all up in arms. Whatever. We don't know if it's kabuki theater or not. We just don't know. Bill Gates could be playing a role, and next thing you know, he's huffing and puffing, and he doesn't like Trump's version of the vaccine. But maybe it's all just one, kind of miscegenated, ideological, philosophical, orgy. I almost said gangbang, but I didn't. But I guess I just did. We don't know. We really don't know. Because there's always the good cop, bad cop, the good cop, bad cop, the good cop, bad cop. We've seen that in Australia, with Dan Andrews and Scott Morrison, theoretically, right? So this is what happens. We don't know. We don't know if now all of a sudden Bill Gates is the bad cop and Trump's the good cop, and we've got the good vaccine, you got the shitty vaccine. It's a vaccine. It's a vaccine. And do you really trust it? Do you really trust a vaccine that hasn't had any trials? Really? And if Trump is telling the truth, it's going to be distributed by the army. What's that all about? If that's true, I guess we're going to find out, won't we? We're going to find out if that's true. Are they just going to go to your every town? How many? What do they have? They got 500 million. 500 million shots of vaccine. That's not much. 500 million. So they're going to come to your town. Are they going to have pop-ups and serve hot dogs and give balloons away? Is that how they're going to accomplish this thing? Oh, come on down. We got hot dogs and lemonade, and we got balloons for the kids. And oh, by the way, you can climb on the Sherman tank that we have parked right outside the vaccination zone. Get an up close and personal look at a Sherman tank. And while you're at it, come on down and get the vaccine. Is that how it's going to go down? And I'm not sure about that. You're going to find out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out because it is not going away. The talk of the vaccine is not going away. It is not going away. They talk about it all the time now. And I've been following Scott Atlas a bit. An interesting character on Tucker Carlson last night talking about how, and I love Tucker, although I think Tucker every now and then has to sip the Kool-Aid, especially around this UFO shit. Anyway, he had Scott Atlas on, and Scott Atlas, and I agree with them. Like they have, like big tech has decided what kind of science is the legitimate science. They have a version of their legitimate science. Other people who have a different version of science are banned, excommunicated, right? Deplatformed. So they love to talk about science, but they don't like talking about science which contradicts their version of science. So Scott Atlas was talking about this last night, and in that realm, he is actually like advocating, free speech. And what that does is, whether it's intentional or not, it gives Scott Atlas credibility. It gives him credibility. It gives him this sense that like he's on your side. He knows the problems. He knows the issues. He knows that, medical professionals like himself are being censored. He knows that. And that's what he's there to do. He's there to share that. And that gives you more confidence in Scott Atlas. I'm sorry, I move around a lot. That gives him more confidence. That gives you, I trust him. Look what he's talking about. He's absolutely, and he is right. There is nothing wrong about what he's saying. His position is unassailable. But that doesn't mean that you should trust him in other areas. You see how that's set up? It's like he's going to gain your trust. You're going to go, okay, I trust this guy. I trust this guy. I trust him. Boom. And then, of course, when the big reveal happens, you've built this relationship of trust with him. So this is a reality that is headed right at you. It's coming right at you. And they say, oh, well, it'll be voluntary. Don't worry about it. It'll be voluntary. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how voluntary it is. It's not like, oh, you're going to go to the hospital or you're going to go down to CVS. The military is going to deliver the vaccine. Theoretically, right? So that is what we are staring down in the not so distant future, the event horizon, not that long from now. Again, with the idea that quite possibly by people getting vaccinated, they'll be able to vote and go to the polls and circumvent this idea of the mail-in ballots. Now, what's interesting is now you've got Biden and Harris questioning the safety of Trump's vaccine. Well, they should. They should, because apparently it's going through some untested trial. Now, generally speaking, this idea that they have to rush everything and Operation Warp Speed and all that stuff. I mean, they've got the vaccine already. Okay, they've had the vaccine theoretically for a long time. They don't have to go, rush this thing out to the marketplace. Does that mean that they've done trials on it? Well, we don't know. We really don't know, and they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you. So get your bright lights on. Put your high beams on. This is we're reaching the event horizon. It is coming right at us. Right at us. So I think this is a good time to segue. Now, by the way, okay, so now, by the way, it's too late in some ways for Trump to bring in the quote unquote troops, right? It should have been done immediately. Once the civil rights were violated, it should have been done immediately. There should have been absolutely zero conflict around it. Done. Shut it down. But that's not the plan. That is not the plan. It could have been done easily. Again, we saw it with Kennedy, with George Wallace. Yeah, we're gonna. You can't tell. Again, equal protection under the law. That's what Kennedy was exercising under the 14th Amendment. That so-called black students could attend the University of Alabama. That's equal protection under the law, right? That their civil rights had been violated. That's what it's about. But it's too late now. It's too far gone now. It is too far gone now. And look, let's be honest, right? They have tons of intel. Tons. They know who's doing what. Absolutely. They have very sophisticated not weaponry, but soft weapons, theoretically. Water cannons, LRADs, AMRAPs, all that stuff could have been used easily. But nope. It's going to continue to fester. Separate, divide, right? Balkanization. That's what's happening to the United States. It's balkanization of consciousness. Good time to segue to Q. Before I do that, I want to play this thing with Russ Winter. So he talks about on this podcast. He talks about William Barr's background, Bill Barr's background. I want you to listen to his background because I'm going to make a connection to what I've been talking about this last week with the SLA, Jonestown, and these basically what they are is they're psychological operational fronts. Okay? They're limited hangs. Get ready to listen to this. You're going to hear what I'm talking about. And you'll hear other stuff here that is disturbing. Okay? So let me find it. Give me one sec. I got so much stuff to play today. It's crazy. And I got a busy day ahead of me. All right, I got it queued up right here. All right. So this is Eric Gajewski, who is he's a Catholic. Eric's a Catholic, and you'll hear that, but the Catholicism piece doesn't come in here. And I don't know what Russ is. I think he is a Christian of some sort, although his views are not spilling over into the content, but they're going to break down Bill Barr's past. So have a listen here. This is very important.
So in 1992, he wrote a report called The Case for More Incarceration.
He's talking about Bill Barr. This is 1992. The Case for More Incarceration. Let's go.
The incarcerated people referenced in the report were often low-level drug users and peddlers. So this is what basically drove the prison, what's called the Prison Inc. agenda, fill the prisons up. And he's quoted as saying, in another psychopathic reveal, he slips up and he says in the report, quote, "The benefits of increased incarceration will be enjoyed disproportionately by Black Americans."
Oh, jeez.
These are pretty serious steps. You know what I mean? So let's go through his activities as an operative.
Yeah, what was his relation with? Did he have relation with Reagan?
Yeah, he was basically a fixer for him. So that's kind of where he got his start. Actually, he got his start in the CIA. Isn't that a coincidence?
Yeah, back in
1971 to
70s.
1977. He's employed by the Central Intelligence Agency, where he eventually functioned as an agency liaison to Congress. So they really advanced him quickly.
Wow. Under Bush too, right?
I just don't see anything special about the guy. Just observing him, he doesn't seem like that big of an intellect. You know, I'm sure he's, you know, has above average IQ, but I think I think his skills are somewhere else. You know, dirty tricks and cover-ups.
Mm-hmm.
So he was handpicked to join the CIA's legal office in Bush's inner circle in '76, where he worked alongside Bush's longtime enforcers, Ted Shackley, Felix Rodriguez, Thomas Klein, and others. That's Bay of Pigs. These are the guys involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Mm.
And involved in
numerous
operations, you know, from the Phoenix program to
the Phoenix program. Did you hear that? The Phoenix program. Who else was involved in the Phoenix program? It was Colston Weston, the guy from Los Angeles who was connected to Donald DeFreeze, SynQ, and he has a very interesting trajectory in Northern California, where he winds up on the Berkeley campus. Now, he is not an official professor on the Berkeley campus. I went into Colston Weston a bit more. He was actually teaching at Contra Costa County College, but he ran an association on the Berkeley campus. And that's where he eventually hooks up with Patricia Hearst, Donald DeFreeze, aka SynQ, and the SLA. Okay. Now, he was involved in the Phoenix Project, just like these three characters that Russ Winter is talking about under Bush. So there's a connection here. You see the connection? Same group. Here we go.
Golden Triangle narco traffic. So he goes right into that cesspool. He stonewalled and destroyed the Church Committee investigation into CIA abuses. He just led the attack and stopped inquiries into the CIA bombing assassination of Chilean opposition leader Orlando Letelier, where they just murdered the guy in cold blood right on the street. That's considered CIA operation. So then he gets nominated as for Attorney General under Trump, and he sends an unsolicited memo to the DOJ and the White House arguing that it cannot be obstruction of justice when a president does factually lawful acts that involve an exercise of his constitutional authority. So he's always clouding up executive powers, creating excuses to violate the Constitution. Really a bad operator.
Yeah, they're all crooks. They're all crooks.
So then he basically gets under the Bush administration. He's Assistant Attorney General of the Office of Legal Counsel, right in the middle of all these sketchy operations. He wrote the advisory opinion justifying U.S. invasion of Panama.
Did you hear that? He wrote the legal opinion justifying the illegal occupation of Panama. That's when the U.S. went down and pulled Manuel Noriega out of Panama, because Manuel Noriega had the goods on Big Daddy Bush. They were involved in illicit drug trade activity. He was a Bush partner. Okay, Panama was a hub, and he wanted more money. And they said, we're gonna just eliminate you. We're going to pull you out of there, but in order to do that, we're going to not only go down there and get you, we're going to invade Panama. And the some of the reports of what happened during that invasion are frightening, in that they were actually testing out some very advanced weaponry. Look it up. Look up lasers and Panama. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, let's keep going.
He wrote legal justifications for the practice of rendition. I mean, maybe they're doing rendition on these Antifa. I mean, that crossed my mind too. We just don't know about it. That would be bad too, because that's a violation of the Constitution. He's not carrying out the Constitution on civil rights. And if they're doing rendition, that's the kind of stuff he would do. it's possible that some of these Antifa might just be disappearing. You can't conduct yourself that way. Follow? You know what I mean?
He also was a freewheeling political donor, as you point out in the article. From 2009 2016, he gave 6 massive donations to the NRSC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee. But the kicker in all this is we're building up. My point in all this is, guess who nominated him to be U.S. Attorney General? In my humble opinion, Trump puppet. Trump part of the game himself. Go ahead.
Yep. Can't just pretend it's incompetence anymore, because they're not really pursuing the uprising. They're just kind of letting it go without much enforcement. So
yeah, that bothers me so much when I hear that. Oh, he's just flawed. Nope, he's a puppet. He's in on the game. As you said, they're letting it go. I mean, if Trump were really the real deal, why is Fauci still there? Why is Bill Gates even around talking on TV or whatnot? I mean, these people should be in jail. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's past the point of making excuses for all this stuff. So I hope everybody sits out the election. Just don't vote. That's perfectly permissible. Just because we've been brainwashed a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do think that voting on a local level is really important. I think it's very, very important. I'm not going to tell you to not vote, right? I'm not going to tell you to not vote. That's Russ Winter's perspective, and you may agree with it or you may not agree with it. I've met our local candidate here, Chip Roy, great guy. He's a good dude. And would I rather have Chip Roy or Wendy Davis representing me? That's a pretty easy choice. That's a pretty easy choice. So I'm not going to, you do whatever you want with that. But I think the meat of what Russ was talking about was the fact that Barr has been an insider for a very long time and deeply connected to some very dubious administrations and characters. And it's that Phoenix Project connection, which connects him to Colston Weston and the intelligence cutouts that they were involved with during the 1970s, late 1960s and 1970s. So, I've never been a big Bill Barr fan. I'm just never, ultimately, I think he was brought in so that he could essentially get Trump out of that impeachment process and, be the guy to be the hammer. And then after that, his role is prescribed and otherwise. Okay. So, what's it going to be? Trump or Biden? Trump or Biden? Probably your choice is already made. And again, Trump will win. It's in his chart. I've seen it. But what happens after the fact? What happens before the fact? We're going to find out. We're definitely going to find out. But in the process of getting there, we've watched the atomization of the country take place. Now, astrologically, it's in the chart of the U.S. As the United States goes through its Pluto return, it will become a different country. It is in there astrologically, right? It has to transform itself on some level. Who's controlling and running the transformation? That's really what I think the kernel of all this is, because I think that there again are groups that are vying for this, right? They're vying for power, they're vying for control. Some of which they will be working with other people, and other times they don't. This is how gangs operate. All right, so I want to get into this thing with this Qanonnpub thing. All right, very interesting story and weird connections, very weird connections. So let me try to find the Bloomberg piece. Give me 1 second. I got so much stuff here. Let me find this Bloomberg piece that kind of gets into the the nuts and bolts of this, all this stuff. Let's see. It's down here. I just had this. Hold on. My apologies. My apologies. This is what happens when you just load everything up. You just got to sort through. Yeah. Oh, I think it's on another browser. I had to fake out Bloomberg because I'd reached my limit of reading their free articles. All right, so that's where it is. It is on the other browser. Choose. Okay, so it's. Let me try this. Let me just try to do it this way, because I got to pop this thing. Hold on. It's there. All right. Here, let me find another source. Give me 1 second. Because I want to get into this, and you have to. I have to set the stage here, and I got to use the same browser. So give me just 1 second. All right. All right, this will work. Okay, so this is from Fortune magazine. And this is so this is the story. Citigroup puts employee who ran QAnon website on paid leave. Well, that's interesting in that he got paid leave. Paid leave. They didn't can him. All right, let's go a little deeper here. Jason Gelinas, an employee at Citigroup. Now, we don't know what he does. He might be doing IT stuff. We don't know. Has been placed on paid leave pending an internal investigation after he was identified as the operator of the most prominent website dedicated to the QAnon conspiracy theory, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. Well, first of all, if he wants to do that, he theoretically should be able to do that. He should be able to do that. It is, number one, he owns the website, right? He owns the website. Number two, he is not advocating the overthrow of the government. He's not, at least as far as I know, most of those Q posts are trust the plan and sit back and get the popcorn, eat the popcorn, right? None of those, I have never seen any Q material that is advocating any kind of social agitation. I haven't seen it. And if there's any kind of social agitation, it's generally another cutout, another psyop that some person or some group is running. Now, that's not to say that there may not be elements of that here, but there should be no reason why this guy can't run that website. I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying. He should be able to do that because there are other websites that are out there that aggregate material that are potentially far more damaging. So I'm actually making a case for him on a legal and constitutional level to be able to have this website. Okay? Galinas, who lives in New Jersey, was identified September 10th, Mars retrograde, as the operator of the website QMap.pup and its associated mobile apps by the fact-checking site logically.ai. I'm not advocating logically.ai. This is not, I don't have a real dog in this fight, but I do want to understand who or what Jason Gelinas is connected to. Since then, the website is shut down and now simply provides links to alternative websites offering information on the QAnon conspiracy. Like, so they're basically making a case like that conspiracy is not allowed. Like, to think about reality from an alternative perspective is disallowed. And the term conspiracy was even cooked up by the CIA. Galinas earned over $3,000 a month on a crowd-funded Patreon site dedicated to supporting the QAnon site, which he said helped cover monthly operating costs. As outlined in our code of conduct, employees are required to disclose and obtain approvals for outside business activities. Citigroup said in a statement to comment on Galinas' status. Okay. So I guess if he's making $3,000 a month, a paltry, what is that, $36,000 a year, it qualifies as a business activity. What if it's a hobby? Where does a hobby and a business? Right, there's a very thin line there. Gelinas is a senior IT group manager. He's a senior IT group manager holding the rank of director. That is a really high-level position inside of Citibank. This is a multinational corporation, and this guy is a director of Citibank's IT operation. This is a high-level guy right here. The QAnon theory, blah, 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 ring of child sex traffickers. Okay. Now, I don't know what 8kun is, so some of you QAphiles may know what that is. I don't. Is difficult to navigate and rife with disturbing content, whatever that is. Many people interested in QAnon instead use aggregators that collect and present the Q drops. QMap.pub became the most popular by offering user-friendly features like tags on posts to allow people to search more easily for themes, said Travis View, a researcher who co-hosts the podcast QAnon Anonymous. It was very effective because it allowed people to go down their own rabbit holes, which is fine. I haven't, again, do your own research. Okay. So this guy, Jason Gelinas, is behind this very, very popular website, one of the most popular on the internet. And he's a high-level Citigroup employee, multinational corporation. So I did a few searches on the old internets. I found some interesting stuff. The first thing that I found is this. Hold on. Is this. Share the audio on this thing. Now, this is Nicole Gelinas. Okay. She is a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Oh, isn't that interesting? The Manhattan Institute. And a contributing editor of City Journal and a columnist at the New York Post. So she works at the New York Post. She writes on urban economics and finance. She's a CFA charter holder and the author of After the Fall, Saving Capitalism from Wall Street. So she is a rabid capitalist. I've listened to a few of her podcasts between yesterday and today, just briefly. So this is quite interesting here. State and local fiscal policy, public transportation, infrastructure. Oh, it's her expertise. She's got a BA in English Lit, Newcomb College of Tulane University. Pay attention to Tulane University. You know who else went to Tulane University? Andrew Breitbart. Okay. So what is going on here with this Manhattan Institute? What are they all about? What is the Manhattan Institute? So here are all these articles on the Manhattan Institute. It doesn't look very Manhattan-y to me. So we have the Aspen Institute. Now we have the Manhattan Institute. It's a think tank whose mission is to develop and disseminate new ideas that foster greater economic choice and individual responsibility. All right, sounds good. These people are basically ideological descendants of Ayn Rand and von Mises libertarianism. Essentially what they are, theoretically, right? Now there is, what did I find here? There was a very interesting video that the Manhattan Institute put together. I gotta find this video. Let me see where it's about. Let me see. I think it was in the about section. M's mission. Yeah, I think it's in here. All right, here you'll find all about the Manhattan. Now remember, the connection is Jason Gelinas, Nicole Gelinas. And, this is a very Tony section of New York, right? Vanderbilt Avenue. So the Institute serves as a leading voice of free market ideas. This is total libertarianism. And Ayn Rand, von Mises libertarianism. Ideas to change the United States and its urban areas for the better, welfare reform, tort reform, proactive policing, and supply side tax policies are the heart of MI's legacy. While continuing with what is tried and true, we are constantly developing new ways of advancing the message in the battle of ideas. They've been around. This is their 40th anniversary. So they're like the right hand to the Aspen Institute's left hand. Work on the ground to show the efficacy of putting policy prescriptions into practice. MI will often collaborate with cities and public officials following the 9/11 terrorist attacks. At the NYPD's request, we launched a policy division to advise police on the development of counterterrorism strategy. In New York, New Jersey, the Institute partnered with Mayor Cory Booker, right, to implement a new approach to prisoner reentry based on the principle of correcting ex-offenders with paid work immediately upon release. MI experts were embedded, look at this, embedded in the Detroit Police Department. They implement the broken window. Now, look, I don't have a problem with the broken window stuff, keeping things orderly. I don't have a problem with that. But the idea that they were embedded in the police department is very interesting language. So they got a book program. What else do we have here? It says here, The Bottomless Well by Peter Huber and Mark Mills was referred by Bill Gates as the only book I've seen that really explains energy, its history, and what it will be going forward. Zappos CEO Tony Hsieh has cited Triumph by the City. Okay, so these are all books that they endorse. As the perpetuation of the American experiment depends on next generation, MI has developed initiatives to support the intellectual formation of tomorrow's leaders, both on and off campus. They got the Adam Smith Society, that's free market capitalism. So these people are kind of, again, Ayn Rand, libertarian, free market capitalists. When you go into that vortex, it eventually leads you to people like Andrew Breitbart. And where did Andrew Breitbart start his website? It started in Tel Aviv, right? So there's a very strong connection with these kind of Ayn Randian, free market, libertarian ideas and ideals, and guess what? Zionism. They're very connected. They're very, very connected. So I want to show you this this video that they did. Watch this video. It's called Ideas Matter. This is very interesting.
Ideas are the engine of change. Whether it's a new observation about how the world works, or a rediscovered theory that explains the present, ideas can take us on a path toward new possibilities.
All right, stop right there. Stop right there. Okay, hold on. Look what's in the background. Do you see what's in the background right there? Do you see that? Do you see that? You think that's an accident? Let's keep going.
And the journey is worth it. It's not always easy, because some people don't see the power of better ideas. Bold ideas that upset the status quo.
By the way, let's look at this. Here we go.
People don't see the power of better ideas.
Not a lot of diversity there.
Bold ideas.
And by the way, would you let your kid ride his bike down this street? I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. Hey, Junior, why don't you go learn how to ride your bike right in front of those very nice people with the tattoos on their faces outside the welfare office.
Better ideas.
Oh, and the bail bonds. Yeah, Junior, go down there by the welfare office and the bail bonds office. Yeah, that's a nice, safe place for you to go get up on two wheels.
Bold ideas that upset the status quo can face harsh resistance at the beginning. But when the truth is on our side, we cannot give up the fight. Even if we can't make change happen.
So now he goes back and, same place, but guess what? He's a little older and the area's a little nicer.
Overnight, we can start by changing people's minds.
Ah, there we go. Order. I like that order. All right. Smiling.
As human beings,
back to blue.
We have a choice. We can either give up and assume that some things will never get better and may only get worse, or we can embrace the challenges at hand, think through our problems, and put ideas into action. Because when good ideas lead to better lives and greater opportunity, it's worth it.
Now look at it. Oh, yeah. Pawnbroker is still there. That's interesting. All right, here we go.
A belief in human potential can change
A belief in human potential.
Lives, strengthen families.
Oh, yeah. Now we got a little diversity happening. The Morning Stir. All right. 999. Yeah, we're going to be maybe a little bit of the Morning Star. What does that say? Jonestown. Holy shit. Jonestown roast. Oh, how about that? The old Jonestown roast. I'm not making this shit up. Look, Jonestown roast. $9.99.
And inspire communities.
Lights out. Lights out. The Lights Out Cafe.
It creates the opportunity for us to find our own path and our own success. We have the power to do just that. Each of us can go on that journey. That's the future that I want to live in. That's the world that we can create together.
Ideas matter. Manhattan Institute. There you go. Again, it is, that's an ideological storefront, right? It's an ideological storefront. I'm late. What are we talking about? It does help to be on time, class. It helps to be on time. I'm just giving you shit, Emily. So anyway, what you're looking at is the connection between Jason Gelinas and Nicole Gelinas. And Nicole Gelinas is embedded in the Manhattan Institute, which is an ideological, free market, essentially libertarian, law and order think tank, right? That's what they do. They are the right hand, probably to the Aspen Institute's left hand. And again, if you make those connections, you will take it all the way back to Zionism. Ayn Rand was an avowed Zionist, by the way. And they talk about human potential. Human potential. And of course, the human potential movement was very big in the 1970s, which ultimately is kind of Luciferian in some ways, like, man is God, you're God, yeah, you're God, but you're not God. That's the paradox, right? All right, now it gets even weirder. So I did some searches, and one of the things that this Nicole Gelinas does is she has podcasts with somebody by the name of Jason Dale. Now, I don't know if this is her brother, but they tackle these ideas, the Manhattan Institute ideas. There's an IMDb page for Jason Dale, which is very long, a whole list of credits, a lot of credits for this Jason Dale person. But here's some other interesting stuff. Let me show you what I found. Find this one thing. Give me 1 second here. I got so much, right? Okay, so this is interesting because I did a search for Jason Gelinas and Nicole. So a lot of very interesting things show up, especially a very strong Gelinas family connection in Florida. And we know who hangs out in Florida. Roger Stone hangs out in Florida. Scott Israel hangs out in Florida. Debbie Wasserman Schultz hangs out in Florida. So there's a lot of Gelinas connections to that part of the world, okay? And I ran across this guy in my search. And again, I don't know what the connection is here, but it led me. Let me see if I can just go back here. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Okay. I can't go back too far because I'm in LinkedIn. This guy's a LinkedIn page. Let me show you. So I went through this search, and then I found this guy, Jason B. Patrick. It just came up, right? It came up in this connection with Nicole Gelinas. I don't know. I can't remember precisely how I got there. But look at his school. It's Tulane University. This is the same school that Nicole Gelinas went to. This is the same school that Andrew Breitbart went to. And he is a partner in this law firm. Supposedly it's in, I guess it's in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Roush, Sturm, Israel, Anderson, and Hornick. Okay, so again, I would have to do a much deeper dive here, but this is the company that theoretically he works for. Now, I think they have offices around the country. Okay. Again, very odd stuff. Very, very strange. And I think what we're looking at here is, I think we're looking at this network that is connected to QAnon, Patriot Movement, Intel, sort of that pro-libertarian kind of Ayn Rand, free market ideology. This is the network that it's connected to, and there are people behind it. Now, I'm not saying that Jason Gelinas is QAnon. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that he had one of the most popular aggregator sites on the internet, and he's a very high-level director of IT at Citigroup. That is not a mice nuts position. And it just so happens that there's a Nicole Gelinas who works and lives in the same town as Jason Gelinas, who is a part of an institute who promotes many of the same ideas. And you may say, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Well, hey, those are good ideas. One of the things that, again, you have to kind of drill down into is, first of all, and again, I'm not here to get you into like a theocracy, okay? I'm not here to get you into a theocracy. But when I see that video that I just played for you, it taps into that whole kind of human potential thing, ideas, right? These are all idea oriented. And where do we hear a lot of that stuff come from? We hear it come from Brett Weinstein. We hear it come from Eric Weinstein, the dark intellectual web, Ben Shapiro. This is like right up their alley, right? That's their ideology, which for all intents and purposes is theoretically secular, although they do seem to worship at the feet of Charles Darwin, intentionally or unintentionally. So there's a connection here, right? These are the idea drivers, and these people are connected to like the alt-right. And the alt-right really comes onto the scene, like I was talking about, right around 2016. This is where all these people pop up, like mushrooms. Laura Loomer lives in Florida. She's running for office in Florida. Florida is an incubator. It's a total incubator. So I'm just showing you connections here. You dig a little bit deeper, and guess what? You find things that are connected beneath the surface. Again, so you say, well, what's wrong with that? Look, there are ideas in there that I actually approve of. I think broken windows is actually a very important kind of thing. Well, what is broken windows? Broken windows was created by these two guys who were involved in law enforcement in Boston, and they found that the more sort of degradation and decay that exists in a neighborhood, the more violence, the more crime, the more trespassing, the more vandalism will occur. Right? It was a program that was employed by Rudy Giuliani, and was like, we're not going to send any subway out until it is cleaned up. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's actually a good thing. It's a good thing. And so they're promoting that. I don't have a problem with that. Not everything is good and not everything is bad. But again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get beneath the surface of this stuff, right? And if this is what's true, right? If this Jason Gelinas is connected to Nicole Gelinas, who is a member of the Manhattan Institute think tank, excuse me, who are promoting these ideas, that again, we have this kind of these the left and the right, these oppositional forces that are intentionally or unintentionally being controlled. And there's a lot of money behind that Manhattan Institute. That's a slick fucking website. That video, that's a high quality video. That drone shot, to get a drone shot over Manhattan First of all, you got to get a permit to do that, and that's expensive. You just can't go flying a drone around Manhattan. Second of all, high quality drone. That's a very well produced video. And you saw right at the beginning, what did you see over the kid's left hand shoulder? You saw a Q. So you want to drill down into the Q rabbit hole. I would definitely look into the Manhattan Institute and definitely look at who, and I just brought up one player, right? Just one player, Nicole Gelinas, connected to this Jason. The other guy, again, is this guy named Jason Dale. Now, I don't know if that's his name that he takes other than, he takes on another name. But again, the Jason Dale that I was able to find has a list of credits a mile long on IMDb with a number of different movies. The name Jason Scott also pops up in relationship to these people. It's this thing, right? It's like, okay, on the left, we have neoliberalism, we have neo-socialism, which, bleeds into Bolshevism. And then on the other side, you have essentially the Trotskyites, who flee Russia, go to Mexico, and then they flee Mexico because Leon Trotsky got an ice pick. They come to the United States, and guess what? They become ultimately the neoconservatives. And the neoconservatives begin to infiltrate these presidential offices, right? The cabinets. They infiltrate the cabinets. And really starting from Nixon, and moving up through Nixon until ultimately, Bush, et cetera, et cetera. John Bolton's a neocon. But then the neocons revert to sort of, their Trotskyite tendencies. They pull out, they go back to being neoliberals, which is what they were originally, right? But then there's this weird intersection between the neocons and the Zionists. So now we have nationalism, Zionism. Oh, this is great. Then on the other side, we have Bolshevism, communism, socialism. Oh, this is great. You see, both sides of these debates are being presented. They're being presented. We got one choice to the other. One choice. Well, what if you don't want either? What if it's like, well, I really don't want that, and I really don't want that either. But the way that this is created is that there are thought forms and programs that move people into those various polarities. So if you got a hard on for the American system and you went through university education, apparently from someplace other than Tulane, that you are going to be probably moved more likely into the neoliberal, socialist, sort of communist ideology, right? You'll be moved into that bucket. And the other people who are not into it will be moved into this other bucket. And this is how the game is played. And so ideas are seeded. Ideas are incubated, right? They're incubated. So I'm just giving you a look behind the scenes. If this guy was one of the creator, he's a creator of one of the most visited QAnon ag sites on the internet. I would bet that Nicole Gelinas is either his sister, his cousin, maybe it's his wife. I don't know, but there's a connection there. There's a connection. And again, I want to be clear that, I think QAnon is a very good incubator for ideas. It is. What you do with them is up to you, and you should always think for yourself, should always do your own research, and you should not be afraid to make connections or question your beliefs or the things you've believed in. Should always happen. And that's a hard part, because sometimes people will buy into something and buy into something and buy into something, and for them to pull the ripcord and say, I can no longer buy into this, will decimate them and will crater them. And again, it's like, well, I've been lied to, or I've been misguided. And then people feel like a fool. Okay. And I think it's important, when we've all gone through these phases, like I had a heavy new age phase, back in the 80s. I was heavy new age phase. And it's like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I learned a lot of things, but I didn't stay there. I moved on. I moved through them. And some of the things that I learned, are kind of valid and real. They're applicable. And some of the things are complete and utter hogwash and a form of, more kind of communitarian mind control, which I think Squirrel will appreciate. So it doesn't mean that if you have a dalliance or you dance with something for a while and all of a sudden you need to change dance partners, it's okay, right? It's totally okay. And if you want to stay with your dance partner, that's fine too. I'm not, saying that you should change horses midstream, whatever. You can do whatever you want. But what I am saying is that if at some point you realize that you have an inkling or an understanding of the thing that you've been watching or following, and it may not be the thing that is ultimately going to be your path towards truth and liberation, then you can step away from it. You can say, I learned something from this, right? I got some value out of this. It's funny. As soon as I started to talk about this stuff, I watched my view count go down by about 25% or 25 people. It's interesting. So apparently there are some people who don't like what I'm sharing. I'm not here to invalidate your relationship with QAnon. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm actually here to validate your path. And our paths aren't always linear. People are into the church and they drop out of the church. People are vegetarians or vegans and then they leave it, right? It's okay. It is okay. And you learn things. It's okay to walk away from something if you need to or want to. It's okay to hang in there too if you want. If you've got a level of commitment, you're going to see through to the end, and God bless you. And that's your path. And sometimes that's important. It's very important. And only you know where you are in that continuum. Okay. Let's see. What else we have here? See what you guys are saying. So true, Robert. Very wise words. Okay. All three are chameleons. Depends on money and power. As an old veteran, I am also very much opposed to Marxism. I agree with you. I'm not down with Marxism. I'm not here to, promote Marxism. I'm not. It's not a path I'm interested in at all. It's not a path. I'm also not interested in a path that seems to be a model that's been imported and is going to represent the quote unquote new America and the new American values, which are kind of anti-Marxist, right? But not necessarily always constitutional. That's where Steve Pieczenik comes into play. Alex, the Constitution, it's an outmoded document. We need to be more agile. We need to redefine, there's your Steve Pieczenik, right? He's right in there. I'd be surprised if he didn't have some connection with Manhattan. I don't know. He could. Being confused is all part of the plan. That's true. That's true. I don't think anyone confuse you for a Marxist. What's really interesting is Barbara Marx Hubbard. Remember her? Her father was Louis Marx. And, Marx was a big toy manufacturer. And there was this thing called the Marshall Plan, which was really a great way for Americans to start doing business with Japan, by the way. Because Japan was not doing much business with the United States. But once we went in and kind of blew some shit up and, we'll help you rebuild. We'll help you. There's a thing called the Marshall Plan. I mean, really what it was a way for, American companies to go into Japan and really for the first time, create outsourcing and, moving production out of the U.S. for cheap labor. That's what that was about. So Louis Marx, who's Barbara Marx Hubbard's father, created the first toy company that made toys that came from Japan. Made a fortune. Another side of being a Marxist. I met Barbara Marx Hubbard in the early 90s. Did she run for vice president or something? She's an odd one, man. The rugged individual, that which must be done away with in our modern times. Hive minds. There you go. The economy of self is the road to Hall. How about the economy of self is the road to U-Haul? How about that? What else we have here? Never been on the Marxist path, but have journeyed on the others. The experience continues. Yes. Yes. The experience does continue. So I'm not here to tell you to stop and do anything. That's up to you. What I would advocate is that if at some point you have that gnawing suspicion that what you're checking out or following or taking in is limited, it is okay to step away from it, take whatever you've learned, and continue your journey. It is a continuum, because some people will feel ashamed about the things that they've been into or the people they've followed. Who knows? Maybe somebody says, I used to follow that Robert Phoenix motherfucker. He's full of shit. I wouldn't be surprised at least one person out there is like that. And it's okay. People jump off the bandwagon all the time. I'm fine with that. Sometimes it gets personal. I like people, and then they walk away, and it's like, well, I liked you. Was there something I did wrong? I don't know. I'm a human, right? I got 3 planets in Libra. Anyway, but it's okay to do that. Don't beat yourself up. If you want to walk away from something, don't beat yourself up. It's like, because what happens is it's like, oh, I really thought you were into fill in the blank, and now you're not into that anymore. Well, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Didn't it work out for you? I thought you had all the answers. And that's another reason why people don't do it. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to have to face that shit. Oh, yeah. I'll just keep on believing. I'll just turn that Journey song on, play it over and over again. It's okay, right? It's okay. And you have to face your critics sometimes. So you know what? Yeah, I learned a lot from it. And, I'm exploring new things and new ideas, and it gave me a real interesting, kind of body of knowledge, and I'm acquiring more. So don't try not to let other people's perceptions of what you're involved with deter you. It's okay. Shame and guilt are two of the greatest prison guards in our minds. Shame and guilt. And if you can deal with shame and guilt, and you can master shame and guilt, nobody can touch you. Nobody can touch you. Nobody. And when I say guilt, I'm not talking about like murdering your conscience. That's not what I'm talking about. Right? That people will make you feel guilty about something. People do that all the time. Or they'll make you feel ashamed about something. You master those two things, nobody can touch you. Nobody. You are unassailable. And so it's a good exercise sometimes to be able to walk away from certain things. All right. I wanted to get into the Batman movies a little bit, and I may wind up incurring some strikishness, but there's a lot of predictive programming in the Batman films, which I think is interesting. Okay, I think it's very interesting. Oh, before I go there, I got to show you this. This is so weird. I got to show you this. This is some high strange. Really bizarre. Okay, so check this out. Hundreds of overseas ballots list wrong running mate for Trump. Over 400 Michigan ballots from military and those residing overseas listed the wrong running mate for President Trump, according to the Detroit News. This is very odd. Instead of Vice President Mike Pence, Libertarian candidate Jeremy Cohen was incorrectly listed as Trump's running mate. It is unclear how many of the 400 ballots were actually sent to voters before the error was caught and corrected. Now, what happens if people fill this ballot out and they vote for Trump, but it becomes invalid because of this character, Jeremy Cohen, as his vice presidential candidate? Now, how bizarre is that? And it's bizarre that Pence isn't on the ballot. So I did a quick search on this Jeremy Cohen character. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. His real name, well, he has a nickname. So it's Jeremy Spike Cohen. As an American activist, entrepreneur, and podcaster, he is the Libertarian Party's nominee for the Vice President of the United States in the 2020 election, serving as Joe Jorgensen's running mate. And if the Libertarian Party has just gone off the rails, they're no longer the Libertarian Party. Brett Weinstein's Unity Party is the new Libertarian Party. So his father, he was raised as a Messianic Jew. This says right here, this is his Wikipedia page. So they're waiting around for the Moshiach, right? So it's more than likely he's Chabad. This is so bizarre. He purports to have named himself Spike after the character for the 1986 children's film My Little Pony. Now, he was supposed to run with this guy named Vermin Supreme. This is where the Libertarian Party has gone to. At one point in time, the Libertarian Party had some interesting people, including Ron Paul. And now one of the people running for president is a guy with a rubber boot in his head. He didn't make it. But Cohen, his running mate, is still on the ticket with Joe Jorgensen. There's Joe Jorgensen. Wow. What is she all about? Oh, look. She's born in Libertyville, Illinois. How about that? That is a bizarre looking person. That is very bizarre. Very interesting symbol there. Isn't that like the symbol of the Unity Party, Emily? Don't they have the flame thing going on there too? Well, that is an odd looking human. Ooh. We live in a weird world, don't we? By the way, Jorgensen is the name of the first supposed transvestite, Christine Jorgensen, supposedly. It's an odd human. What is she about? What is she about? Let me see what she's about. Libertyville. She got a Bachelor of Science from Baylor. Began her career working at IBM, Digitech, PhD in Industrial Organizational Psychology, Clemson. I'm surprised she didn't go to Tulane. Let's see. Anything else? She opposes civil asset forfeiture, qualified immunity, opposes war on drugs, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. She's got a couple of daughters, grandson. Opposed to how the COVID-19 response is being run. Opposed to single-payer health care. Calls Social Security a Ponzi scheme. And she's got Spike Cohen as her running mate. Born on May Day. There's your Joe Jorgensen profile. A very odd looking person. All right, I want to get into the Batman stuff, but that ballot thing is weird, right? Very strange. More high strange. So one of the things that's really interesting about the Batman material is okay. So I'm going to play this, and it is a scene from the beginning of The Dark Knight Rises, where Bane blows up a football field. Now, I believe this is predictive programming for the end of the NFL. This is what I think this is referring to. And what's interesting is I'm going to break this down just a little bit here. Okay, this is fascinating. I am going to turn down the volume on it because I don't. And this is not what this is. It's not the actual movie, but it is Warner Brothers breaking down the special effects. All right. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to play another scene from Batman, a different, same movie, and another scene from an earlier version of Batman. So we're going to do a little Batman thing here. It's very interesting. So here we go. And we're kind of into a predictive programming sort of theme at this point. But there's some other stuff that's just kind of mind-blowing in some ways. All right, here. So I'm going to put this up here. And all right. So this is the stadium, right? Now they shot this, if I'm not mistaken, in Pittsburgh. So this is Heinz Field, which of course is named after the Heinz Manufacturing foodstuff company, whom Teresa Heinz is descended from, whom is the wife of John Kerry. Now, here's a little known factoid. Number 19, who is the kicker, is named Ravenstall. Ravenstall. So I'm going to leave that up there. And I'm going to read you. Hold on a second. Maybe you see, I don't know what you're seeing now. Let me go back in the StreamYard. Okay, you're seeing that. Okay, that's good. Okay. So I'm going to read you this from Wikipedia. So this kicker was named after the mayor of Pittsburgh. So he's the mayor of Pittsburgh at the time. And his name is Luke Ravenstall. What a very interesting name, huh? Luke Ravenstall. Interesting character. He's an Aquarian. He was the youngest mayor to ever hold office in a major city. He became mayor of Pittsburgh at the age of 26. 26 years old. He becomes mayor of a pretty significant city. That just doesn't really happen. He's a Democrat. Represented Hillary Clinton. Right, he endorsed her. His brother is a former member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Went to North Catholic High School. This is interesting. He graduated with honors and a degree of business administration. So he went to Western and Jefferson College, and he was the starting place kicker on the football team and was captain for his senior year. He currently holds the school record for the most consecutive extra points. And then he became account manager for courier service. Now, this guy Ravenstall does a run as mayor, and he has some very interesting ideas around technology and a bunch of other stuff. I don't want to get into too much. But in 2009, When he was mayor, Obama brought G20 to Pittsburgh, and Ravenstall was the mayor there. He endorsed Hillary Clinton. He was involved in Pittsburgh's Third Renaissance, right, which was encouraging healthcare and education industries using the best technology throughout the city. And then he was involved in greening the city. Now, what's interesting is he's also kind of a broken windows guy, but he created the Serve PHG initiative, Love Your Block, Red Up Zone, Snow Angels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The mayor's mentoring initiatives. I mean, these are all not bad things, right? On a certain level. But he goes in and he makes all these changes as mayor. And then he leaves, and now he's basically vice president of sales and marketing of People's Natural Gas. This guy was a player for a while. He was a player. And I think the interesting connection here is the connection between health and technology that he institutes. Anyway. So he is, let me go back to, he is this guy who is the kicker right there, number 19. Is that interesting? I thought it was interesting. All right, let me go back here. Find it again. Oh, I just had it. Just said that's a different one. Hold on. I just had it. Damn it. All right, here we go. All right, so let me play this, and away we go. So there's Ravenstall, the mayor kicker. Here come the cops. And then boom, right there. This is Hines Ward, an actual football player. Used to play in the NFL. Born on March 8th. Same birthday as David Wilcock and Torre. Okay, so Hines Ward's got the kickoff, and away we go. And now here he is. And what number is he? He's 80, right? Isn't that his number? 86. So they're showing you how they blow up the field, which is interesting. Like they're putting charges in and everything. They're building a field on top of the field. So there's another field underneath. You see this? And some of these things are real, and some of these things have charges or CGI. So there's real guys dropping in, and then there's CGI. It's brilliant filmmaking. Absolutely brilliant filmmaking. There's Ward right there. Looks very much like a modern football stadium, doesn't it? Where there's absolutely no fans. But I think really this is a metaphor for the implosion of the NFL. Right here, right? Boom. Down, up, into the pits of hell. Into the pits of hell you go. So there's a lot of interesting kind of predictive programming around Batman. There was that map that showed Sandy Hook on it. You guys know that one, right? Then here's another scene, and this is from The Dark Knight. And I'm only going to show like stills of this. I don't want to show the whole thing, but I'm going to show you this again. This is the Clash on Wall Street, and this is pretty much where we are right now in a lot of ways. This kind of embodies and I'll show you. Here we go. So on one side, here. On one side, you have, let me make sure I have the volume down. On one side, you have these assembled dark forces. Very interesting symbol right here, looking very much like the compass and the square, right, with the all-seeing eye in the middle. Cow, we have some graffiti over here. Okay. And then William Street, which is, what is that? It's supposed to be, Bellum. Is that Bellum? Bellum, William? Anyway. All right, it's supposed to be Wall Street. Here we go. Let's go. Here come the assembled hordes, right? And Bane is their leader. And we think of Bane. What else do we think of? We think of Bain Capital, Mitt Romney, hedge fund. These are their vehicles that they've stolen. These are Batman's prototypes that they've stolen. So here we go. Here is your Antiphans over here, right? And here's the blue. You got the blue right here, Matthew Modine, the Antiphans. And what do we have? We have the clash. And the clash starts here. Here comes the blue. We have right there, they're charging. We've seen some of this in Portland, by the way. We've seen some of this in Portland where they're actually charging Antifa. You guys have seen those videos, right? Oh, there's Catwoman. Okay, Park and Phil's. Here we go. And here we go. So there's Bane. All right. Really, the thing that you want to pay attention, or see, here we go. The clash on the streets. Predictive programming. Right here. They're trying to get the kids out. Here we go. More fighting. Oh, Batman. Here you go. Here's Batman. He enters in. He enters into the fray. Right? So we have a clash on the streets and Batman enters into the fray. Right? He's in a tough battle with Bane. But we kind of know how that ends. All right. So where else do we see Batman? I'll show you. Come on, Batman. Where are you? I just had you up here. All right, here it is. Check this out. Check this out. It's crazy. So we got, protesting in Atlanta, and look who shows up. Right, it's not in the same way. I mean, he's not fighting Bane. But it's a very similar situation. Now, did the guy just say, hey, I'm going to go up and pretend like I'm in the movie? Or really, are we dealing in some kind of weird Twilight Zone predictive programming model? But there is one thing about Batman that I do want to show you that's quite positive. And it has to do with the escape scene in The Dark Knight Rises. And again, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I am going to play bits and pieces of it because it talks to the power of persistence. The power of persistence. And of course, the prison escape is a metaphor for your own mind. So here he is, he's training, he's inside this prison, which is sunken. It's an inverted tower. So he's training, he's training, and he's trying, and they're all behind him to get out. Let me do full screen on this. You can see it better. So Christian Bale's training, he's working to get out of the prison. Okay. This is important. This is actually an important theme. It's an important theme because there is something to this, right? To be able to train yourself to some degree to liberate yourself from your circumstances. Now, do you have to be this severe? I don't think so. But remember, it's a metaphor. Okay. Now, this is very interesting, very Escher-like, right? Christopher Nolan's a genius. So we have this Escher-like kind of structure inside of this prison. Okay. Now, here he goes. And there's a rope here. This is his first attempt. I'm going to move it up a little bit. And he has a rope, right? He has a rope, and he's using this rope. So I'm going to play ahead a little bit. Okay, now he's got this thing, right? This cord, this lifeline that could get him to the top. But what happens is, of course, it breaks and he falls. And it brings back this memory of when he was a child, right? And he falls into this inverted tower on Wayne Manor. His father gives him some advice. And this guy's basically saying, okay, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. It's very philosophical. He's saying, okay, I can do it. Okay. All right. All right. So then, this is like the voice of God on the other side of those prison bars. So then he says, okay, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it. And everybody is behind him. All the energy of the group is behind him. But what's different this time? This time, there's no rope. There's no rope. There is no safety net, right? This is the metaphor. This is the metaphor. That without the rope, without the thing that is connecting him, the cord that's connecting him to his exit, like there's much higher risk involved, right? But guess what? By the way, this is out of the illustrator Gustave Doré. So in this scene, Nolan is basically taking a pastiche from Escher and Doré, not Albert Doré, right? You know his stuff. Interesting, right? So this is the light at the end of the tunnel. And he moves forward, and he does something that, right, there's the bats. The bats come out, reenact the trauma moment. He gets over his trauma, right? He has to revisit his trauma. The bats were the thing that traumatized him as a kid. He revisits his trauma. Should never look down. And then he does something that is... So there go the bats. They're flying free now. He does something different. And what he does is he makes the leap, right? He makes the leap. He makes the leap. There it is. Instead of going up, he has to make the leap. This is the fool's journey right here. Everybody's watching it. Can he do it? Can he do it? Can he do it? He's summoning everything he can inside of himself to make the leap, And here's the leap, and he makes the leap, right? Everybody's going to fall. It's going to fall. It's going to fall. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And of course, he's victorious. He makes the leap, right? He does it. And from this point forward, he can scale up and out. And guess what? There's the rope. And then he can throw it down and let other people climb up. He has made it to the top, right? And there are levels of initiation that he has to go through in order to do this, right? This is the most, in some ways, the most important part of the entire scene is the releasing of the rope so that others can get out. He's free. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in the Batman films. There's a lot. And that scene's important. And in a lot of ways, I think it's inspirational. So I'm going to leave you with that. There you go. How can I validate the authenticity of adrenochrome? Found you out before you're gone. Yay. Okay, anything else? Some company was created to sell you. Okay, you guys are off on a adrenochrome. New Batman got some bad adrenochrome. The new Batman is woke. He's woke. Totally woke. Yeah. The whole killing, all participants in a heist operation, showing how it's done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Reminds me of Duncan Idaho's climb in Heretics of Dune. The spiritual leap is a Buddhist understanding. I think there will come a time when the globalists will attempt a leap. What's interesting is that, when you get into cinema, and I got to go soon. When you get into cinema, you know what happens, right? Akira Kurosawa says evil does not evolve. Evil shows up. It is what it is. It doesn't evolve. It's the hero that evolves. Keep that in mind. All right. Lost a lot of people today. Guess it happens. What kind of leap? I don't know. Ask Steve. I'll tell you. Tomorrow, Chad Stumkey and Lark in Texas. Communitarianism and structure. Esoteric architectura. Thank you for all being here. There'll be a link here if you would like to donate, support. People coming to the event, email coming to you today. Keep your eyes open for it. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to stay open when it's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. And, give Maury a little helping hand. I think Dawn, again, you can reach out to Dawn. She'll direct you to help out our pal Maury. And that's it. Have a great day. Bye for now.